learning to read, to life skills, job skills, and leadership training, and into employment. This is how we build confidence and instill a positive mindset so they can achieve bright futures for themselves, their families, and communities. Learn how you can join the journey and help end poverty for good at children.org today.
You're listening to WVGM AM and FM Lynchburg, now powered by ESPN Radio and streaming on the VTRN Sports app.
Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your trusted dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for over 50 years. With more selection, more value, and more finance options. Plus, your trade is worth more. Shop local and save more with straightforward pricing, plus exceptional service and selection. Your search ends at the Motor Mile. Choose from over 900 quality pre-owned vehicles, plus a massive selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, plus the used car superstore. 11 new car brands, 900 used vehicles at one location. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got more than any other dealer in the area. The Sheeler Motor Mile delivers choices. Here's the difference. Sheeler owns the finance company and makes getting approved for credit simple and easy on the Motor Mile. Flexible financing options for every budget to get you on the road fast. Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile with a certified friendly staff and no games, no gimmicks. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
With MedGuard Alert, you're never alone. You can connect with medical professionals anywhere, anytime. And now MedGuard is introducing our exclusive new Care Watch. If you need help quickly, use it from anywhere to contact medical professionals. No cell phone required. The Care Watch is not only a life-saving medical alert device, it's a revolutionary health monitoring system that checks your blood pressure, heart rate, oxygen saturation, and much more. And here's the best part. If you have Medicaid, you may qualify to get your Care Watch for free. The Care Watch is only available through MedGuard Alert. Call us right now. We have monitoring programs starting as low as $1 a day. The call is free, activation is free, shipping is free, and no contract is required. Remember, with Medicaid, you may qualify to get your Care Watch for free. Call us to get your Care Watch right now.
800-681-8020. 800-681-8020. 800-681-8020. That's 800-681-8020.
Looking for everything happening in and around Central Virginia that used to be in the morning paper? Start your day at the lynchburgportal.com. Get the latest news updates from Bill Trevero, plus up-to-date weather from VTRN's own in-house meteorologist, Matt Ferguson. So you're always in the know before you head out the door. Want to listen on the go? Stream classic hits on Rewind 103.9. Get breaking local news on WIQO, or catch the best sports talk and play-by-play on VTRN Sports, powered by ESPN Radio, all right from the portal. Looking to save? Check out insane radio deals for great local discounts, or explore local podcasts featuring the voices and stories that make our community special. Plus, connect with local businesses through the Lynchburg Business Alliance directory and stay in the loop on the latest events from Lynchburg Tourism. It's all right here. Local news, weather, sports, deals, and more at the lynchburgportal.com. Your gateway to everything Lynchburg.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
So first of all, when we say the word epidemic to start the fast lane, let's be real, this is nothing close to an epidemic. Like COVID-19, the pandemic a few years ago, you could argue the fallout from that as well. And then, of course, other epidemics in the United States. The opioid epidemic is an example of that, among many others that have popped up. But we're saying this tongue-in-cheek because we're trying to have a little fun here in the fast lane. Is it just me? Or, TJ, is there an epidemic in the transfer portal in college athletics? And I'm not talking about the whole Damon Williams from Washington reportedly to LSU situation. By the way,
Time to take a detour in the fast lane.
This quarterback for Washington, apparently, and by the way, they're student athletes, they're not employees, but he apparently signed an agreement, a contract, agreed to terms, pick your cliche phrase, to go back to Washington about a week ago. And then, even though apparently maybe he and his agency and representation, whether it's a legit agent, whether it's like Uncle Tom, Bob and Smith, I don't know. Pick your name here. But they apparently missed the fine print that Ross Dellinger is reporting, that there's a clause in there that prohibits him from entering the transfer portal. Now, how enforceable all this is, I have no idea. If you are a legal consultant or you know someone that would love to get publicity, fastlaneedlane@gmail.com or Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, we would be glad to meet with you. Trost Law, they are our partners, of course, but this is not their area of expertise. They're very transparent about that. That's why it's worth having them on your side if you're involved in an auto accident or suffer a personal injury. But it's not about that. First of all, who's shocked that LSU is the reported destination? Imagine this.
No.
Lane Kiffin has no regard for contracts and commitments. Are you shocked about that, TJ?
No.
Mr. Bail on your team before the playoffs happens to have no regard for other contracts or commitments.
Nope, not a shock at all.
No, indeed. Again, Lane Kiffin is the one who cheats on their spouse to be with you, and then you're shocked that they cheat on you with somebody else. You can't really play that game and be shocked. Just saying. So, we've got that out of the way. Now,
After Ed's potentially unnecessary detour, let's get back on the road in the fast lane.
there is still an epidemic, loosely speaking, of course, to discuss here in the fast lane. The epidemic we're touching on, TJ, is I'm forever a Flame, forever a Duke, forever a Wahoo, forever a Hokie, forever a Monarch. Pick your school here. We just rattled off the 5 1A programs in Virginia. Look, I get it if you're, we'll use him because he's a local example, and we'll get to this in the Fast 5 at 5-ish in about 5-10 minutes from now whenever we wrap up this portion of our chat. But Eli Wood, who went to EC Glass, 4 years at the University of Virginia, I will emphasize this part, graduate from the University of Virginia, and then enters the transfer portal. I can buy someone like that going forever a Wahoo. Totally get it. Alonzo Barnett from JMU, graduated, stuck around, helped them get to the college football playoff. Hard for them to repeat that. Never say never, but ask Liberty. A lot of fans have felt we should always get back when it's really hard and only one team most years. It's going to be more so now they're going to get this ironclad. But only one team in the majority of years is going to the college football playoff. So, or New Year's Six Bowl in Liberty's case. It's going to be really hard to do that. I buy the JMU Duke, Alonzo Barnett, forever a Duke, but I'm off to the bigger payday for a year at UCF. I buy the Eli Wood, forever a Wahoo. They both graduated. They paid their dues. They were at the school for a period of time. It makes total sense. But there are a number of these guys out there where I'm left just rolling my eyes whenever they, or their representatives, put on social media forever a blank. Like TJ Bush. God bless him. Again, no issue with him heading to the transfer portal and getting paydays at Cal and then reportedly most recently at Minnesota. But if he transfers from Minnesota next year to the next highest bidder, even transferring from Cal, it's a little much for me. I'm forever a Flame, forever a Golden Bear, even though I was only there for less than one calendar year and only one season, and now I'm going to forever be a Gopher. Like, does this sound ridiculous, TJ? When these players, or like another one, who's the defensive tackle? Hunter Osborne, from Alabama to UVA, back into the transfer portal. Forever a Tide, forever a Wahoo. I mean, this sounds so stupid. Like, am I off base, or is there something about how ridiculous this sounds?
If you go to a school for only 1 year and then transfer, the forever thing is so tacky.
I like the word. All right. It's time for a quick confession. I love the word tacky. Are you in the midst of wedding prep with your fiance Brenda, and she has you probably heard the word tacky far too often?
A couple of times, yeah.
I'm shocked that a bride-to-be would ever interject with her opinion. Just saying, for those watching Fastlane, Ed Lane, and VTR and Sports on the socials, I am pointing at my wedding ring. I, too, have evidence of having been down this road. The word tacky comes up a lot. Trust me, you'll get more of that. So when you're talking about this, though, if you've committed to a school for a period of time, I get it.
Yeah.
Or even if I can to an extent understand it from someone like an Evan Dickens, who basically it wasn't happening at Georgia Tech. Then he transfers to Liberty. He has a good year, and now he's off to Boston. I understand it. But even when you've transferred, for the most part, should we put a rule in? Once you've transferred 2 or more times, forever a blank has got to go.
Absolutely. You can't be TJ Finley and hop into the portal every single year for 6 years.
Dude, that guy's forever a Tiger, and he's got like 3 of them.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like Auburn,
Exactly.
forever a Clemson Tiger, forever an LSU Tiger, and forever, we could do Bulldog, we could do Wildcat. I mean, he might be forever a Bulldog, Tiger, and Wildcat. For all I know, he could have 2 of each.
I think it's definitely on par to be appreciative for the year or 2 that you had with the program. But my thing is, like you said, when you're only there for a year and you say forever a Hokie, forever a Wahoo, I just find it tacky. I do. Like,
who's buying that?
Yeah. Well, the fan base isn't buying it for sure.
Like, no way am I sitting there going forever a blank. Like,
Right.
What's the Liberty fan reaction when they see TJ Bush forever a Golden Bear? Like, dude, he was forever one of us. Now he's forever one of you.
Right. It's like it's like a side chicks.
Yeah.
Best way to describe
That
it.
no, that is.
Best way.
I am giving you the tacit applause for that, TJ. It is fantastic. That's a great analogy. Again, I don't begrudge these players for getting what money they can. The majority of them are going to, we'll mock the NCAA for a second, go pro in something other than sports after their eligibility expires. So I get that. The NCAA, due to their negligence, and rather than spending $400 million over a 10-year period to figure out how they could have a better system in place, they spent $400 million over a 10-year period to preserve a system that was always going to blow up. Like, it is the biggest element of workplace malpractice and negligence.
And you know who I feel bad for? The enrollment offices. Unless you're at Carolina, you can take classes there. But I think I just have to feel bad because now you have all these athletes coming in and you got to get all their classes together and all that paperwork. I can only imagine.
Oh my goodness. I mean, it really is. It's a ton. Now, the schools are going to keep up with this because as long as they're making money, especially the bigger ones, they'll deal with it. Like Virginia, for example, or Virginia Tech, or your power programs, as long as they're in a spot where they can make money, they will deal with the headache. And again, you're playing the game. We touched on this with Virginia when they brought in Testa Ritter, Virginia Tech with Neoclis of Dallas, Baylor with the player from the G League that they brought in that created a big storm last week. All of that being your college basketball examples. I don't begrudge any of them. They're just playing within the rules or lack thereof that exist. And therefore, I would do the same thing. Keep testing stuff. Keep allowing this to transpire. Is it a hot mess? Absolutely. Is it laughable? For sure. Do I believe that the majority of these athletes are actually student athletes getting meaningful degrees? Haha, really? I would rather them have a clause where any school for whom you play, you can go back and get tuition covered for a 4-year period. You're on your own for room and board, but we will cover your enrollment and tuition to go back to that school. I think that's a very reasonable proposal. And then let's just cut the charade out here of these guys going to class when you are forever a Flame, forever a Golden Bear, forever a Golden Gopher. That's where I just laugh. And there've got to be ways that make at least a little bit more sense than this one.
I agree.
Meanwhile, what we can also all agree on is that if you want to pay full price, just go ahead and keep missing InsaneRadioDeals.com. But if you want discounts, head to InsaneRadioDeals.com. Oliver's on Rivermont and 801 Raw Bar. They have merged to the Oliver's on Rivermont location, but you can enjoy both restaurants and their menu items. Mix and match however you like. InsaneRadioDeals.com has specials on those gift certificates. Also, Rise Up Climbing. Whether it's 1 month, preferred memberships, or day passes. Think about this. It is warm today. It was in the 60s earlier today. I don't think it quite got to the maximum comfort level of 73 degrees. But it was close. It's not going to last that way forever. This weekend, it's going to be rainy. And you're going to be going, how in the world do I engage in some type of fun activity with my friends? Or in my case, your children? The answer is InsaneRadioDeals.com. You head there, you get those day passes for a special deal at InsaneRadioDeals.com to Rise Up Climbing, and you can go and enjoy it. And once you like it, then you can go back and get the 1-month preferred memberships for 2 or the 2-month preferred memberships for 1 person. Mix and match however you like. They are ready for you on that and so many other great items at InsaneRadioDeals.com. Now, speaking of transfers, it's time to get into all of that. Player transfers in the Fast Five at 5-ish.
It's time for Fast Five at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kind of ish. Let's start with number 5.
When it comes to transfers, we are going to touch on transfers that have a local angle today in the Fast Lane. The big one that just broke is former Salem Spartan, not linebacker Chris Cole. He's still at Georgia. He started in the Sugar Bowl. I'd imagine if you're starting at Georgia, even though they've had some game management issues, you're probably not going to head anywhere. But his former teammate at Salem, Peyton Lewis, who was on the field when they lost to Gideon Davidson in LCA their senior season and Davidson's junior year at LCA, he is transferred from Tennessee to the University of Virginia. That, according to Jacqueline Franchuli of 247 Sports. She's pretty reputable. I will give the deference to her that this is a very reputable report. I like it for Virginia. Look, he didn't do much at Tennessee. That's why he's in the portal. If he had performed, they would have found a way to keep Peyton Lewis around. But he's a guy that's got high upside, and we've seen it with Virginia when they had, who's the running back from Wyoming that complimented Jamari Taylor? He's escaping my name. Fast Lane, Ed Lane. It'll hit me as soon as we go off the air. But Virginia had a 1-2 punch in the backfield. They will go after somebody else, but Peyton Lewis is the type of high upside 4-star recruit. He was a track star. Again, you want to talk about coaching malpractice. I still, for the life of me, can't figure out how Salem, his senior year, they had Chris Cole and Peyton Lewis, and they gave up like a 75-yard Hail Mary when the easy solution would be just put Lewis and Chris Cole like back deep and just say, if the ball gets thrown deep, you just track them down with your all-state caliber track speed and trust it was going to happen. Again, what would I know being a coach on the sideline? I get it. I'm not coaching the games, but that's one of the head scratchers that's out there. But I get it for Peyton Lewis going to UVA. This move makes sense for the Cavaliers, and it does not preclude them from grabbing someone else. It is a flyer worth taking. Meanwhile, other transfers, different direction.
Number 4.
Alonzo Barnett from JMU to UCF. Colton Joseph from ODU to Wisconsin. The Joseph one is one that really intrigues me because Wisconsin is in a clear must-win scenario with Luke Fickell as their coach. They've disappointed in his first couple of years. And again, to get my usher on, I have to confess that I thought he was going to be a better hire at Wisconsin than he was. But Colton Joseph's the type of guy that he's got size for durability. He's got good passing ability. He can run the football. Liberty saw that. And it seems like he's the type of guy that's worth taking a flyer on at Wisconsin. I don't think he was ever going to be a fit for Virginia Tech. We will get more into that in just a bit here in the Fast Five at 5-ish. But that, and then Alonzo Barnett from JMU to UCF. Again, he graduated. I have no issue with Alonzo Barnett going to UCF. I love his intangibles as a leader, but he's under a 60% passer, and he's under 6 feet tall at quarterback. You've got to be really good under 6 feet tall with good accuracy like Russell Wilson, not the version now, but the one that was in his prime. Or a quarterback like Drew Brees, who has pinpoint accuracy. If you're under 6 feet or at that mark, you need to be on that level. He's just not. So Alonzo Barnett needed to get a payday while he could, and there was a coaching staff change which made a logical transition, plus he graduated. Joseph from ODU to Wisconsin, that's one where I like the upside. I'm very intrigued by it. I'm not projecting Wisconsin to go to the college football playoff, but I think he's the type of guy that can at least give them some successful performances.
They have not had a great quarterback in a couple years, from Tyler Van Dyke to the recent bunch they've had. I think Colton Joseph will fit well, and I think he'll be what Luke Fickell needs to get that offense rolling.
Indeed. Meanwhile, local players we get to in
Number 3.
running back Davis Lane from JF and then LCA has entered the transfer portal. He's got 1 year of eligibility remaining. Again, I would say this is a forever a Wahoo that actually makes sense. I know we're grading this now, forever a Wahoo. He's a guy that was a Swiss Army knife when, if they had just given him one concrete position, pick tight end. pick defensive back, pick running back. I think you could have gotten more out of his skill set, but moving him around shows there's a level of versatility. I would say this, and we'll repeat this in just a moment, but the fact that you play multiple positions might position him better to have a shot in the NFL. Now, I don't see overarching athleticism, but multiple positions equates to special teams contributions as well. And you can carve out a nice career. See former Virginia Cavalier and William Campbell General Cedric Pierman, who had a good 8-9 year NFL career with the Bengals, not because he was a prolific running back like he was for Brad Bradley at William Campbell or for Al Groh at UVA, but because he could contribute on special teams. And at that level, if you're a good special teamer, they will just keep you around. And don't get me wrong, it may only be a couple million a year, but a couple million a year to be a special teamer can propel you for your next phase of life. That's where there's hope for Davis Lane. I just wish at Virginia he could have gotten more consistency at one position, because I think they kind of shortchanged him on getting that to where he could be a legitimate tight end, a legitimate running back, a legitimate defensive back. And truthfully, I think he probably would have been better suited to be a safety or a tight end than a running back, because we've seen what running backs at Virginia successful look like, and Davis Lane's skill set never fit that. Yeah. But that's the big what if, and I'm glad he's got another year to go somewhere where maybe he can pick one of those positions and really try to master his craft.
I agree. Yeah, I think Davis Lane in UVA just never was a fit.
Meanwhile, speaking of transfers from UVA and some of the things we touched on,
number 2,
former EC Glass Hilltopper and now former Virginia Cavalier wide receiver Eli Wood is entering the transfer portal also with 1 year of eligibility remaining. Like Davis Lane, he could say forever a Wahoo, and I will actually believe it, not roll my eyes at the ridiculousness of it. He graduates from UVA. He's a player that contributed 4 years there. He grew in his role. He, too, has embraced special teams, which I know he came on over the course of the season as a wide receiver, and he's got a real good, thick build at 6'1", about 215. The weight will get more accurate over the next couple of years if he pursues the NFL further. But that's the recipe for somebody that could carve out a role in the NFL. I get it. The easy comparison is the white guy at wide receiver in the slot, so he's the next Julian Edelman or the next Danny Amendola or the next Wes Welker. Where I really see Eli Wood having more value, though, at the next level is not necessarily in those skill sets. It's in the skill sets where he can contribute as a special teamer on top of that. Because when you're just starting out and you don't ooze great athleticism, and Eli Wood has a lot of positive traits, but doesn't ooze that next level athleticism. The next step is being somebody that can then go forward on special teams and provide that additional value, making it harder to cut you. It's the same advice I would offer a lot of young people just outside of the world of sports. Put yourself in a position where before you advance further in your career, find an area where you can be good. Media is an example of this, doing multiple things. And therefore, you can make yourself invaluable and have more opportunities. Eli Wood fits that description. Meanwhile, the Virginia Tech Hokies, they have settled on Ethan Grunkmeyer as their top quarterback of choice. I like this for a couple of reasons for Virginia Tech. I know there was noise around Colton Joseph. I love his skill set, but he only had 1 year of eligibility remaining. And for Virginia Tech, you can afford to take a guy that may not be there at the beginning of the first season, but by the end of the first year, you are praying, and I'm going to curse for a second here in the fast lane, you are hoping that he can develop into that. But Ethan Grunkmeyer's last couple of games, Rutgers, Michigan State, Clemson in the bowl game. I get Clemson's not what they used to be, but he performed very well over the stretch run at Penn State. He's a James Franklin recruit. He's got 3 years of eligibility remaining. And I like the fact that he stuck around at Penn State when bleep hit the fan. All the bad stuff with James Franklin's dismissal. And some players could have opted out. Grunkmeyer never did. I think that's a fantastic trait to have. It's one of the knocks on Bo Pribula, who bailed on Penn State before their playoff run last year in the middle of it, before their season ended in the college football playoff semifinals against Notre Dame. Because, look, I get Lane Kiffin did what he did, and I get other players might be going down this road, and we're seeing some of them right now. If I'm in the NFL or at the next level, that's where I have legitimate questions. I don't fault guys at the NFL for getting as much money as you want while you can. The NFL is a business. Everybody understands it at that level. Although I do think it stunts development. That's a topic for a different day. Where I do have a challenge is in the middle of a playoff run. If you saw that in the NFL in the middle of the playoff run, we'll just throw this example out there because you'll hear his game in the middle of the afternoon on Sunday, part of our NFL coverage right here on the VTRN Sports app. But let's just say Lane Johnson of the Philadelphia Eagles, who was back at practice today, said, there's a chance I could negotiate another contract this offseason. I'm going to take it safe. How in the world would that fly over in the NFL? It wouldn't. And I get you got generational money. But that's the type of thing that is a red flag raiser at the next level. Grungmeyer, as of right now, does not seem like he has checked that box. If anything, he was loyal to Virginia Tech loyal to Penn State, even when they had a coaching staff change. Meanwhile, when we return to the fast lane, we'll get some perspective on some of these players from the backyard going to different colleges and their careers so far. Bob Alvis of the Sports Buffet podcast will weigh in on that. Plus, we will also ask him about the start of district play in boys basketball, girls basketball in the Seminole and Dogwood districts. All that when we return here in the Fast Lane on the VTRN Sports app. And if you missed anything, Fast Lane, Ed Lane, however you consume podcasts.
Mark Dalton here with Terry Volkswagen. Get ready to fall head over heels for the perfect VW SUV. One size doesn't fit all, though, and that's why Volkswagen has an SUV for everyone. From the compact and affordable Volkswagen Taos to the tech-packed Tiguan and the spacious Volkswagen Atlas. No matter which one fits your lifestyle, you'll love the comfort, performance, and safety. Stop by Terry Volkswagen on Forest Road in Lynchburg or check us out online at terryvw.com. Terry Volkswagen. You'll love our cars.
At the Farmers Bank of Appomattox, we've been serving Virginians for over a century, and we've stayed locally owned and operated for over 100 years. So when you bank with the Farmers Bank of Appomattox, you've got the peace of mind that our team members have a multi-generational standard of being responsive, professional, and caring. That's how we treat our neighbors and friends. With all the uncertainty in our world, now is the time to come to the Farmers Bank of Appomattox. Your community, your bank, your future.
Hey, small to medium business owners, if you're frustrated with slow IT support, high costs, or paying for services you just don't use, it's time for a change. Hi, I'm Colt with We Fix Stupid Computers. We provide reliable on-site and remote support tailored for businesses just like yours. And we go beyond just fixing problems. We empower your staff with real tech knowledge so they can work smarter every day. From repairs to training to full IT support, we save you time, stress, and money. Call We Fix Stupid Computers, 434-525-8590. We're smart support with real savings.
Your home is more than just walls and windows. It's where life happens. And at Right Choice Construction, we get that. We're not just builders. We're fathers, mothers, neighbors, just like you. And every nail and every beam reflects our commitment to creating a place you're proud to live in. With Right Choice Construction, you're choosing a team that's been perfecting the art of building for years. So build with us, build with experience, build with quality, build with Right Choice.
The holiday season may have passed, but the deals at InsaneRadioDeals.com, they're everlasting, especially when it comes to your favorite food joints in the Lynchburg area, like 801 Raw Bar and Oliver's on Rivermont, the Caribbean Jerk Pot, Yamada, the Yard on 5th Street, Ballard Brewing, and Downtown Cairo. $50 gift cards for only $37.50. Deals that you can only get at InsaneRadioDeals.com. So start your New Year's and your taste buds off right with these local food joints.
Hi, I'm Zach Mackey, the voice of Virginia Tech men's basketball. Catch the Fast Lane with Ed Lane and Trey Lyle weekdays 5 to 6 p.m. on VTRN Sports 93.3 FM and the VTRN Sports app.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
He's Bob Alvis. He is our boots on the ground local sports reporter because Bryson Gordon of newsadvance.com joins Trey Lyle in the morning warm-up 7 to 8 a.m., just like he did earlier today. And I don't have to get my usher on because I have listened to that interview, and they really did not delve much in to high school sports today, understandably, because it's been a couple weeks and a lot's happened with the Liberty Flames. So that's where we come in the Fast Lane. As Bob Alvis of the Sports Buffet podcast joining us once again. Bob, great to be speaking with you. We hope you are well, and a happy new year to you and yours.
Bryson is the man. I don't blame me for being second choice to that at all.
No, well, we all have our spots and roles, and, we want Trey in the morning warm-up to have their staples, much like Bob Alvis is a staple of ours with high school sports coverage here in the Fast Lane. Bob, there are a number of areas to get to. We will get to some basketball in just a moment, but it's been kind of busy when it comes to former high school sports standouts from our footprint entering the transfer portal. A lot of it centers around the University of Virginia. First of all, they've added former Salem Spartans running back Peyton Lewis, who played really just in mop-up duty at Tennessee. Is this a good high upside projection for Virginia? Obviously, as somebody, you and yourself, having seen Peyton Lewis back from his time at Salem and knowing his next level of athleticism.
I don't know what to make of the transfer portal these days. I'm at a total loss with it. I think anytime you can add from the portal, you obviously see something that works within your program. Keep in mind, not everybody needs a 5-star. They need the star that can fit in their program. So I think Peyton Lewis, if he can help Virginia, obviously Virginia has seen something they like in Peyton Lewis to where it can help them. Is Peyton Lewis the world's best football player? Maybe not, but that's not the point. Can he help Virginia win, and can he help Virginia get back to a bowl game, preferably, that New Year's Day-ish bowl game?
Yeah, that's a great point about that. And you mentioned, not everybody needs 5 stars. It seems to me a lot of that, the example of how Peyton Lewis could be a fit at Virginia is at Tennessee and a lot of these bigger SEC programs. It's just about accumulating as many high-end talented players, knowing that some of them may not develop, and you're not even often in the business of developing guys as much as wanting ready-made players that can plug into a system. How much is that a spot where, and again, we'll get to this on the other side, but guys like Davis Lane, guys especially like Eli Wood, who did develop very well at Virginia, those can be the type of stories of, okay, Virginia is the type of place where you could theoretically develop into a standout if you give it some time.
Right. I heard you talking about Eli. To me, the best thing that could happen for him would be like a Steve Tasker role, because Steve Tasker excelled in that special teams role in Buffalo for so many years. If I had the career of Steve Tasker, even going back a little bit farther, Bill Bates with the Cowboys, if I can have that special teams role, they're just as important as, anybody else on the team. So I'm not a big fan of the transfer portal the way it's set up now, because it is the wild, wild west, as I'm sure you've talked about many times. But, if you're going to have the portal out there, use it. And kids are definitely going to take advantage of it to find the best situation. And coaches better take advantage of it, because if not, they're going to be on the unemployment line really quick.
Oh, I mean, it's a total mess in college. We're all keenly aware of that. But you touched on that with Eli Wood. I love the examples, by the way, from back in the day with Bates in Dallas or Tasker with the Buffalo Bills. Is there maybe even a good local example to this? Cedric Pierman, who had a run of great success with William Campbell when Brad Bradley was there, winning state championships. He went to Virginia, but he made his bones in the NFL and had almost a decade of a career, largely because of the special teams capabilities.
Right. You look at your 5-star people in high school when they get recruited to college, and some of the stars have to move over to the special teams. And I can tell you, one of my favorite players ever to play college and pro football is Shane Graham, because those point after touchdowns and those field goals matter just as much. Is a kicker of special teams? I don't know what it is if it isn't. So, I think obviously if not everybody can kick and punt the football, but you need people to make the tackles. You need people to make the returns. And you just need people to be steady Eddie. Hey, don't forget blocking. That's a pretty big deal. JT Cruz will tell you that one.
When you're talking about steady Eddie, you're not referring to me, of course. You've seen me in my not so steady moments, Bob. You don't even have to get your usher on and confess. We all know that that's the case. But you touched on this. By the way, you mentioned the transfer portal. One thing we made a point of to start the fast lane, and I did it on a TrostLaw.com fast take, is the epidemic. I'm using this in air quotes, of course. But the situation where a lot of these guys are forever and then they have multiple schools that they are forever a blank mascot, if you will. Is it reasonable to at least say guys like Davis Lane from JF and LCA, who went to UVA, 4 years, then transfers out, grad transfer, or the same thing with Eli Wood, paying his dues? Those are legitimately forever a Wahoo type players because they stuck at the program, including before this past breakout season in Charlottesville.
Yeah, I think the forever a thing, because I look at it, I'll break it down to a high school level. I look at it more as a coaching thing, because when you hire a well-respected alum or whatnot, at some point you're going to probably have to be prepared to fire that alum. And I don't know how somebody can say forever a B or forever a Cavalier if they let me go, because chances are I've got bad blood with that organization at that point. I'm not as big of a fan of the forever, type of things. I believe it more in a forever friend than a forever wedding date, if that makes sense. So I'm not a big fan of the forevers, because I think forever is a myth.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point as well. given the transient nature of college athletics. Meanwhile, we will shift over to high school, but we will stick on the gridiron with Bob Alvis of the Sports Buffet podcast, who is with us here in the Fast Lane. Bob, you probably saw this one coming, but Liberty High School promoting Brad Womack, they basically just removed the interim tag and have named him now their permanent head football coach after this past season. How much did he earn that title, given the way that they didn't win every game, but they looked a lot more competitive in a lot of games and clearly looked like they took a step forward, not to mention on such short notice?
Yeah, the sports that didn't look as good at Liberty are looking a lot better now. Coach Womack, obviously one of the big ones. Coach McSweeney in basketball, Liberty's playing a lot better on the hardwood as well. I think what kids want, and I saw something on Twitter to where one of the Hampton football coaches said kids want discipline. I think kids want stability. And when you have Womack with the interim tag off, it shows some stability. Now, I get we're in the society of what have you done for me lately, but I think Brad Womack is the guy to go for that job at Liberty, to have that interim tag taken off because, A, he wants to be there. He's got character, and that's the biggest thing. If you can teach character to your kids, I think that's a step up. Obviously, coaches are getting younger these days, which I totally support because I think you have to be able to relate to your kids. And I think Womack is a slam dunk for Liberty because, let's be honest, not a lot of people wanted to go to Bedford with what had been happening record-wise.
Yeah, that's a great point about how difficult that job was. There's year 2 that will change things with this, but for Liberty, how reasonable is it? And I'm not going to believe that people immediately think they're going to vault themselves into the LCA heritage type contender at the top of the Seminole District, but that this team can go back to being kind of like, and I know they weren't this past year, but most years Rustburg has kind of been the thorn in your side. They play hard. They get a lot out of it. How much is that the goal that you believe that Liberty's offseason takes, which is now that we got a full offseason with football, we can start to develop these guys and really become that team that you just don't want to play?
It's funny because my mom actually went to Rustburg High School, so I've got like a little bit of Rustburg blood in me, I guess. But I think Rustburg has always had that mantra of being hardworking kids. They might not be the most talented and everything, but you're not going to beat Rustburg by just walking in because they are going to work. I think Liberty gets that, that label on the west side. But ultimately, I feel that, kids nowadays have to prove that they're there to work as opposed to being there to shine on their social or whatever, because I think it's a bad precedent that's been set by other people. But I think that kids have to prove that they want to work. But I think if you have stability, that is going to make you want to work more than, hey, who's going to be the coach this year? What are we going to do in the offseason? Are we going to lift weights? I don't know what we're going to do because I don't know who's coach. Now you have that stability with the coach.
Bob Alvis from the Sports Buffet podcast, local high school sports reporter and local sports, with us here in the Fast Lane. Bob, we've touched on Liberty football, Liberty basketball. You mentioned John McSweeney's bunch over there. First of all, we'll kind of take a bit of a detour for a moment.
Time to take a detour in the Fast Lane.
That being this, is it reasonable to say, based on the way they played against each other, that most people would presume that at the top of Seminole District boys basketball right now, it's relatively close between EC Glass and LCA, with the nod going to EC Glass because they won at LCA earlier this season?
Came back from double digits in the fourth quarter. I was sitting next to former UVA standout Butch Jefferson, and I said to him, I'm like, no way does EC Glass come back, because I think they had to make up 16 in the fourth quarter. They made up 16 in the fourth quarter. Coach DJ Best has a group that's hungry, and they have a group that I think is motivated to win. I don't know if it's by fear. I don't know what it's by, but I don't think those kids like to lose. And back to my old man, get off my lawn diatribe that I had a few minutes ago, I believe you need more of those kids that hate to lose rather than enjoy to win. And I think EC Glass signed them up in the hate to lose category.
While we're on the subject of detours here in the Fast Lane, if anybody wants to help us broadcast high school sports after the football season, we are always ears to suggestions. If you know of businesses that would sponsor, we're at fastlaneedlane@gmail.com or Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and then we can work on ways to connect. The reason for bringing that up, of course, Bob, is you said that to Butch Jefferson. No way they come back, and of course they did. So if we were broadcasting and you were next to us, you would have to deal with me pointing out for an eternity now that you applied the coveted or dreaded in some people's minds broadcaster jinx.
And it's not a knock on LCA at all, but I guess maybe some people are going to take it that way, which they're more than welcome to twist my words wherever they want to, because that happens a lot. But I think at the end of the day, you're not going to find many teams that are going to blow a 16-point lead. Now, you'll say, well, LCA blew the lead. Well, I'll say EC Glass also came back. So I'm not going to put all the onus on the team that lost the lead. I'm going to put the onus on, you can miss all the shots in the world you want to, but the other team's got to make shots to come back from 16 down. I think it exposed some things for LCA, and I think Matt Klein is very cognizant of that. LCA's played a killer schedule so far. They've played Western Albemarle. They've played VES. They've been in some tournaments such as the Chance Harmon Classic this past week in Floyd. EC Glass was also there. EC Glass really has prepped themselves, too, by a hard schedule in the summertime. DJ Best talked about that at Seminole District Media Day. Matt Klein's team had a hard schedule last year and had a hard schedule this year, and they just played a lot of games in the summertime. I think the Joe fan, as I sometimes call it, will look at it and say, are they tired? I don't know. I don't know that kids get tired like that in a way, but there have been a lot of games on the legs, but I think LCA is going to be fine. I think EC Glass is going to be fine, and I think we'll be talking about them both when it comes to late February, early March.
Oh, I have no doubt about that. We were just pointing out the fact that, sometimes the broadcaster jinx is a real thing, Bob. And, any chance we get to point it out, I'm not doing my due diligence if I don't bring that point up. Now, we bring this up as well, back from our detour.
After Ed's potentially unnecessary detour, let's get back on the road in the fast lane.
I think anybody that has just studied high school basketball, boys basketball, would be under the impression that when you're talking about the Seminole District, yes, LCA and EC Glass are at the top, but Heritage will probably give them a good ball game, especially Glass, given the rivalry that will take place later this month when the first game gets ready to unfold in another week or two. But after that, teams that are dark horses, would you have to put Liberty with John McSweeney, Amherst winning 5 in a row? Would you have to put them in the categories, maybe those next level of sneaky teams that as the district season unfolds in the Seminole for boys basketball, you're all of a sudden going, they were looking really impressive.
I think Liberty with John McSweeney definitely should be a dark horse. I mean, you've got Padgett in there. Padgett is the definition of a Euro, at least in the Seminole, to where he's a tall kid for high school basketball, and Aiden can pop out and shoot the basketball as well. Amherst under Brendan Banton, they're learning how to win, and they're getting these wins. Recently, a win over Fluvanna and Appomattox. So the Lancers are learning how to win. Now we're getting into the meat of the Seminole District schedule. And don't forget about Jefferson Forest. Jefferson Forest under Jeff Monroe, they like to shoot the ball outside a lot. And I compare it almost to a boxer that punches a lot. When you shoot a lot of threes, you've always got a puncher's chance, because if they go in, the opposition's going to be down and scratching their head and feeling like they've got to shoot a lot. So I think Jefferson Forest has to be looked at as well in that boat. Obviously, you're going to have a tough match when you play Rustburg. You're going to have a tough match when you play Brookfield. There's no easy night off in the Seminole because it's a well-coached league, and there's a lot of good players in that league too.
We are going to table some of those other talks with dark horses and teams as the slate continues to unfold in boys basketball on the Seminole side. But Dogwood District play, just the thought that entered my mind is the way Nelson County raced past Alta Vista and really powered their way through the second and third quarter of that game last night down in the A-Town, Alta Vista, that they're undefeated right now. How much value is there the fact that this team, it has not been a lightning in a bottle once a year. It seems like this program for Nelson County now, they have been slowly building, and their undefeated start so far to this season in the early portion of January has been the result of just continual residual deposits.
Yeah, I was going to say Teron Watson's got an outstanding team up there in Nelson County right now. And, Nelson is kind of that fringe place to when people have to go to Nelson County. I don't want to say it's in the middle of nowhere, but it's kind of in between Lynchburg. It's kind of in between Charlottesville. It's a long trip for a lot of people, and I think sometimes it takes a little bit of air out of the sail. Nelson County is a very big gem for a Dogwood District school, and I think it's an advantageous factor for them. But they've been going on the road, too. They beat Spotswood, who's been a perennial 3A state contender. Blazers lost a lot, but hey, give Nelson credit. They beat them. Nelson County goes on the road and knocks off Alta Vista. Nelson County's been doing a lot of good things, and they've got a lot of good players too. And don't forget, this is a team that went to the state Final 8 last year, and now that John Marshall is maybe not what John Marshall has been in 2A, the proverbial door may be open, shall we say.
Yeah, that's a good point about what they are and the opportunity that awaits. That is something that is called a tease, because we will get to that as this time unfolds. Bob, we appreciate yours, though, today in the Fast Lane, touching on a gamut of different topics when it comes to high school sports. We appreciate it, and we look forward to more of these.
As always, happy to do it, Ed.
Indeed. Bob Alvis from the Sports Buffet podcast with us here in the Fast Lane. A ton of things to get to, and we'll start to delve into different programs in boys and girls basketball as that season transpires. But Nelson County's the one where, and it was kind of, I'm going to use the example because it's close to us, but Jefferson Forest Cavaliers football presented by TroStall.com. But they had slowly been building with JT Cruz, and it wasn't until their 5th year under him this past season where they finally burst through and made it to the regional final, quarterfinals, won that, made it to the state semifinals, losing to the best team in their class, Varina, who, I think JF actually might have been the second best team in 4A, the way Varina just won handily in the state championship. But on that particular run for Jefferson Forest, what was amazing is it's a slow accumulation of deposits where you keep coming back. You get some heartbreak with losses and realize what that feels like. But it keeps motivating you to perform better and better. And again, we didn't really delve into that angle with Bob Alvis of the Sports Buffet podcast, how sometimes the heartbreak is good. But the way Nelson County's won, and the way they won last night down in Alta Vista, they won by 19. But it's the fact that they look like they have steadied themselves consistently over the course of the season. Are they going to lose? I would think so at some point during this regular season or in the early portion of regional, hopefully not in the early portion, but in the latter portion as they unfold. Yeah, I'm honestly of the belief that in a lot of cases, a loss can do you good just for the reset. But for Nelson County, it's not a fluke that they're in this spot because they have been putting those deposits in over a period of time. When we return, we will take a deposit out on the Virginia Cavaliers, particularly their bench. Jakari White has been injured, but their depth has been a key part to their success. We'll start looking ahead to the matchups tonight with Cal at Virginia Tech, 6:30 airtime right here on the VTR and Sports app. Stanford at Virginia Tech, 6:30 airtime, VTR and Sports app. Cal at UVA, and the dreaded 9 o'clock tip for ACC basketball. We'll touch on that when we return here in the Fast Lane on the VTR and Sports app, and ask that smart speaker, open VTR and Sports. Plus, get ready for it, some of your feedback. It's been a moment, so we'll get to that as well here in the Fast Lane.
Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your trusted dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for over 50 years. With more selection, more value, and more finance options. Plus, your trade is worth more. Shop local and save more with straightforward pricing, plus exceptional service and selection. Your search ends at the Motor Mile. Choose from over 900 quality pre-owned vehicles, plus a massive selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, plus the used car superstore. 11 new car brands, 900 used vehicles at one location. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got more than any other dealer in the area. The Sheeler Motor Mile delivers choices. Here's the difference. Sheeler owns the finance company and makes getting approved for credit simple and easy on the Motor Mile. Flexible financing options for every budget to get you on the road fast. Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile with a certified friendly staff and no games, no gimmicks. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
New year can mean new changes in your life. But you know what will never change? The great deals that you get on InsaneRadioDeals.com. And we don't just feed your taste buds, but we feed your adventurous side, your hobbies, your interests, with great rates on Rise Up Climbing Passes, Aquatrek Adventures, and Cross-White Athletics Club. Or if you're a sports nerd like me, we've got gift certificates for ASeaOfRed.com and BNC Sports located at River Ridge Mall. All this and more at InsaneRadioDeals.com.
Hey, this is Virginia Tech analyst and former Hokies tight end Mike Burnham. You're listening to The Fast Lane with Ed Lane and Trey Lyle. Join the chat at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
So we have not gotten into the weeds a ton on certain elements, but for the Virginia Tech Hokies and the Virginia Cavaliers, they both play tonight. Our favorite matchup against historic ACC rivals Cal for Virginia, and Stanford for the Hokies on the VTRN Sports app at 6:30 p.m. So, might as well take a moment to get into the weeds with both of them being the focal point, as it's worth discussing right now in the Fast Lane.
The haters say we get into the weeds. They may even say we get into the weed.
Smoke weed every day.
Nah, we love getting into the weeds to discuss some cool sports details here in the Fast Lane.
So first of all is the game tonight that you can hear on the VTRN Sports app at 6:30 p.m. when Stanford and Virginia Tech get ready to square off. I am looking to see if Virginia Tech can play a cleaner brand of basketball than what they did against Wake Forest. And this is a great point that was made by David Cunningham of TechSideline.com. He actually made it on the most recent TSL podcast that dropped after our chat with David Cunningham Monday in the Fast Lane, wherever you listen to podcasts. But Mike Young and Steve Forbes have played so many times that there is a familiarity with each of them. I would not put that loss in the catastrophic for Virginia Tech. If they lose at a place like Boston College, that would categorize itself as catastrophic. Pitt is not very good this year. Georgia Tech has had a down year. Those are the type of losses where if I'm Virginia Tech, okay, you really have to start panting. I don't think we're at the point where we can look at tournament resumes. I don't think they feel as secure as Duke, North Carolina, Virginia. I'll put Louisville in that, even though they lost. Duke kind of pulled away late last night at Louisville. Part of that's the injury to Brown for Louisville. I mean, you're without a top 10 projected pick in the NBA draft, which Louisville was. You need all the arms you can get against Duke. And big picture, Pat Kelsey made the right decision to sit him. But short term, it's an issue. So I don't put Virginia Tech in that category. But I put them in the same category as an NC State, as a Wake Forest, as an SMU. The type of schools that can play their way in to March Madness. And a lot of it is just being steady, grabbing some marquee wins when you can, and avoiding the catastrophic losses. Now, somebody's going to do that because this is college basketball, and even though these guys are paid, they're still younger players. But Virginia Tech is not in a catastrophic spot, but losing, I don't think it's unreasonable to say that they should go 2-0 against Stanford and Cal starting tonight, 6:30 airtime, VTR and Sports app. And a lot of that is just the basic assessment. Can they clean things up from how turnover prone they were in Winston-Salem Saturday afternoon?
Don't turn the damn ball over. Take care of the ball. You can't beat yourself. Wake Forest played a good ball game. I thought we beat ourselves. We had some timely mishaps on the glass, and we didn't play well enough to win in terms of ball handling. Not a whole lot of heartburn. This has been a great ball handling team. I know we'll get back to that on Wednesday.
It's something that you know about. You figure it out. I do think the idea of turning the page is not necessarily overrated. It makes some sense right now. 19 turnovers, though. I mean, you can't do that, and you cannot start off as sluggish as they did. Generally at home, you would not expect to, but this is still something where you look at it and go, okay, this is what you should expect for Virginia Tech, and it's why it's reasonable to believe that they'll be able to rectify this problem. Meanwhile, for the Virginia Cavaliers, I think the beauty of the way Virginia has played is they lost to Virginia Tech, but it was a triple overtime game. That they hung in there in a defensive grinder. Then they went on the road and really jumped on NC State from the get-go. That was a mature win for Ryan Odom's squad. Can they build upon that? And they're now back at home. I get Jakari White is out, but the fact that their bench has stepped up and played well in spite of him, and depth is something that Ryan Odom wants. He wants to go 8, 9, 10 deep, not 6 to 7 deep, where you're kind of stretching to get to 7. That's the nature of his play. It is a higher tempo. You need better players. And Odom has gotten them up to speed. But can Virginia continue to do that? Because again, much like Virginia Tech, I think even more so because I think Virginia's a better team. But for Virginia, they should win both games against the California schools this weekend. And if they do that, it continues to allow them to buy time for Jakari White to return. I don't know if he'll return next week at Louisville. You'd love to have him back, especially with Brown, a post player for Louisville. Louisville probably is not going to need him against Boston College this weekend, especially coming off a loss. You think Louisville's focused and can win that game regardless of whether Brown plays. So if you can do the next thing, he's probably coming back. Brown for Louisville, against Virginia. If Virginia can counter with Jakari White coming back, it gives them a chance on the road next week. But until then, you want your bench to step up the way that it has so far.
Yeah, I mean, he was huge. I mean, I would say that entire group is huge for our team. Ugo gives us energy. Devin, since he's been back, certainly gives us a positive deal. Chance has been huge, all season. And so it's not just Jakari, but we all miss him. And I think we all know what he can provide for our team when he's open. Or when he's guarded sometimes, he's just really capable of making shots and making big plays. And so we certainly miss that.
Virginia clearly does miss that, but they found a way to compensate in spite of that. And the more you can win these type of games, which are should-win games this week, it buys you time for Jakari White to be closer to full strength and not have to rush him back because you feel like other guys are underperforming. And frankly, I think part of why it's worth bringing that up, TJ, is in the back half of the Tony Bennett era, it's clear Tony Bennett's coaching acumen got Virginia wins that their talent probably wasn't going to get them. As we saw when you removed Bennett from the equation last year, it never gelled and materialized for UVA. I think Bennett squeezed the most out of the talent, but when they would sustain an injury, it was much more catastrophic, whereas the way Ryan Odom's constructed the roster, they should be able to withhold these type of injuries. So far they have, but you want to see that trend continuing.
No, I agree. I think the trend has to keep going up.
No doubt. It clearly does. Meanwhile, we've touched on that particular trend. We pivot off of that in a moment to get some fan feedback. But before we do, a trend is something that happens when you have multiple decades of experience.
Not one, not two, not three, not four.
A little over 4 decades of experience. And the trend is, if you can continue to serve people the way you would serve your family, being for them as you need, calling you back within 24 hours, speaking with a representative, not being ping-ponged around to different representatives, but you get a liaison who's with you for your entire case. That's why Trost Law has been able to be a staple in our community for accidents and injuries that may have occurred. Your personal injury experts, trostlaw.com and 777-HURT. Now it is time for a little bit of fan feedback here in the Fast Lane.
Come join the chat or give us a piece of your mind. Trey Lyle VT and Fastlane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Now it's time for fan feedback in the Fast Lane.
One of them is from West Coast superfan Ben, who has chimed in, and we appreciate our fans wherever they are, West Coast included. If you're listening there, it must be the VTR and Sports app or Fastlane Ed Lane, however you listen to podcasts, because
And guess what? We keep receipts.
right there. I was in a restaurant recently, and on TV, what have they been showing but the ESPN Lane Kiffin 30 for 30. Talk about a Jimmy Sexton PR masterpiece, and the scene is him and his family praying at the dinner table before filming them eating dinner. Just amazing stuff. Again, I cannot tell you whether Lane Kiffin has a relationship with God and Jesus. That is between he and Jesus. But I will say, based on his history and based on the way things always seem to unfold with Lane Kiffin, and the fact that we have years of experience, as LeBron would remind us,
Not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, not six, not seven.
no, more than 7 years. We're looking at like 10 to 15 years, maybe more. We could do that twice because it's double the amount of time for that. Lane Kiffin has not exactly earned the benefit of the doubt. So the fact that that stuff keeps playing, I mean, I'm with West Coast superfan Ben. If you're talking about Lane Kiffin's 30 for 30 and the curated scenes on it, I mean, it is an example of how some of these documentaries and pieces that you'll see are so curated, it's hard to believe they are legitimate and real. And if it's over embellished, like the Housewives shows, you remember those from Bravo TV. And again, that's a great network and they've made a lot of money doing it. But some of those are reenacted. I've had friends who've seen them reenact them before in different areas. So I'll take that for what it's worth. But that's the part where I just sit there and absolutely have to roll my eyes at this. Meanwhile, another one that came in as well, this one from Wes, but it is referencing Bill Roth. And he says, remember Bill Roth's tweet a few weeks ago? For what it's worth, There were some players on the 2000 Virginia Tech team, as well as those led by Michael Vick. They finished ranked 5th in the regular season, and they were shown at a diner in New York City, gathering together. Even though Virginia Tech was passed over by the Fiesta Bowl, which selected Clemson, which selected Notre Dame, and Clemson ended up playing and losing to Virginia Tech in the Gator Bowl. What the tweet about Bill Roth is about is, are we going to see those moments in the future where players are at a program long enough to develop that type of bond where they meet up years later, whether it's by chance, like Jim Druckenmiller and his former teammate, or others at random spots, and feel that emotional pull and connection? That is very reasonable to ask. Thanks for listening to The Fast Lane on VTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, W227 BG Timberlake, and 1320 AM, WVGM Lynchburg.
This is SportsCenter.